We're in week 6. Last week we spoke about the demise of the deli counter and how it was a bit like a turkey at Christmas. Remember that?
Remind me the turkey at Christmas analogy?
I was trying to say that a counter is a bit, you don't want to get rid of it. You don't want to get rid of turkeys at Christmas. No one really likes how they taste, but they are Christmas. A counter is a store.
But given what Sainsbury's have done, I'd say they're stuffed.
Yeah, no, pack so. All right, what are we talking about this week in week 6?
Well, I know you like a good riddle at the start of these conversations we have. Get your brain matter going during lockdown. So here you are, test. Top 3 things guaranteed to annoy a buyer.
Or
hang on a second. I'll give you the first 2, and you've got to guess the third.
Right, go on.
No. Top 3 things not to say to your buyer if you're an account manager if you don't want to ruin their day. 1, right. I'm having an affair with your nearest and dearest.
Fair.
2, I've just run over your favourite pet, cat or dog. Now, obviously, depending on the buyer, those first 2 could be interchangeable.
Fair.
But what's the third one guaranteed to put your buyer into a bad mood?
We've just managed to not deliver the stock that you absolutely needed for Easter, Christmas, or a big promotion.
Yeah, a bump in the road. No, the number 3 guaranteed to ruin their day is we're putting through a cost price increase.
Yes.
They, as I said, other than you running over their favourite pet or having an affair with their nearest and dearest, it's probably the worst thing you can say to a buyer.
So what about when suppliers used to say, but if you put the prices up, you'll make more money?
Yeah, but I think you see with a buyer, it's a couple of things. Is one, will the market, particularly the current market, take a retail price increase? Everybody watches everybody, but it's actually a lot more personal than that because you've been a buyer. I've been a buyer. You've got to sit in that trading room on a Monday morning and the boss goes through all the figures and everybody gets a bit of a beating because the figures aren't good enough. And then he or she turns to everybody and goes, right, what news have we got, guys and ladies?
Yeah.
And everybody else has got fantastic news like, oh, my new product is hit number 1. I've just won a prize for whatever. And then Darren has to put his hand up and go, oh, I've just accepted a 10% cost price increase from Fred Blogg's grocery company.
And it's going to take a hit on my bottom line of X 100,000. So the next question comes from he or she manager. How the hell are you going to get that back? Well, you've just spent a week negotiating and trying to figure out how to get what was 18% down to 9%. And now you've got to figure out how to close the gap.
Yeah, normally it just ends up not even with a challenge like that. It's just like, you muppet.
Or worse, yes.
Yeah, and it's the rest of your week ruined. So anyway, so to come to the point, cost price increases, I think, are obviously inevitable, particularly after this year where so many suppliers have had to spend inordinate amounts of money during lockdown to either be COVID safe or to get extra deliveries out there, et cetera, et cetera. So costs have been rising. And we have the big B word happening in January. Still nobody knows whether there will be a deal or not. Almost inevitably, anybody importing either raw materials or product into the country will face higher costs. So why talk about cost price increases now?
Well, Q1's coming.
Exactly. If you want to get a Q1 price increase through with your retailers, now is the time to start thinking about it. There is no set rule. There's no rules, no laws saying how much notice you must give a retailer.
True.
But if you want to soften the blow and not send them into orbit, 12 weeks is sort of custom and practice.
Yeah,
so
that's fair. Okay, so, and if I'm an account manager thinking about this G-Scott thing, which I sort of understand and don't, anything there I've got to be careful of?
No, because remember, and I don't know if we already said it in one of these sessions, maybe we need to have a session on it, suppliers cannot break G-Scott. They have nothing to fear whatsoever.
That's true, of course. They also want to try and steer their buyer not to break G-Scott either.
Yeah, I guess so. But it's the buyer and their possible reaction that could breach G-Scott as opposed to the supplier putting up their prices. And think about it this way, retailers, supermarkets put their prices up left, right and centre. I went out yesterday to get myself a chicken tikka masala microwave meal. It had gone up 20p. Where was my 12 weeks notice? Where was my negotiation with with the supermarket. They didn't even tell me. Quite rude, really.
Well, interestingly, when we used to buy produce as a team, a long story short, the buyers used to come to me and say, we've got this price increase, that price increase. And I used to talk to the suppliers or the account managers, and they'd say, yeah, the crop was short this week. Okay. Next week, the crop was long. And my question was, has the crop ever been just right? No, not in 50 years. So the price always has a reason to do this.
So,
All right.
yeah, given that, for politeness, suppliers should be giving retailers 12 weeks notice. If you want a 1st of March or a 1st of April price increase, you need to talk to them at either 1st of December or 1st of January.
Okay.
So
and in your experience of dropping that bombshell, how should they do it best?
Well, the other reason for doing it now, as on top of the fact that, because of the perfect storm of Brexit and COVID is obviously hitting people's cost bases, now is the perfect time if you're going to get a cost price increase through, because just about every single of the major supermarkets year ends is between 31st of December and 30th of February or 28th of February. Yep. So you putting in a March or April, a cost price increase that lands in March and April, you're hitting the very few weeks of their financial year. Okay. So if they can't put the retails up, or the market dictates that retails don't move, they've got something like 49, 50 weeks to find a solution to the problem.
Which they can help them with.
Exactly. But, put a cost price increase through that lands on the 1st of December or the 15th of December, they could have 14 days to deal with it. It's going to send them emotionally into orbit.
Yes, very
true.
The
other benefit, they're moving into Christmas mode. They're incredibly busy just with the day-to-day logistics of running their business, and again, even more so this year. So that cost price increase email or letter that lands on their desk, they'll take notice of it, but they won't have a lot of time to really put you through the mill on it. So as long as you do it carefully and professionally, and obviously we have a whole program helping suppliers do this in a proper, comprehensive and professional way. Yep. Do it like that, and your chances of success, or your chances of success without major downsides, massively increase.
That's very true. The other part I'd add to that is, obviously, in the game that we're in around training and understanding behaviors, I'm a big picture thinker. You are too. Other people like the facts. It's knowing who your buyer is, meaning if they're a blue in Herman terms, which is a psychometric test, they're going to want the detail, the numbers. You and I are big picture thinkers, so we want to see, okay, how are we going to close the £250,000 gap you've just given me? Understanding your buyer and communicating their way, very important.
Yeah, I agree. And there is, there's almost a manual. It's almost like a car manual. There is a manual for putting a cost price increase through to the supermarkets. They, in my experience, your experience, 40 odd years between us, they react in a very, very predictable way. Yes. As I said, cost price increase, third worst thing you can say to them, guaranteed to ruin their day, guaranteed to get an outright no rejection. Yes. Then actually they go through a very specific set of phases to actually then having to enact the cost price increase. And it's the way you behave, respond and communicate to them during that critical, 8 to 11 weeks, 6 days until the price increase happens, as to whether you'll be successful or whether you end up with a nightmare scenario, 7 o'clock on a Friday night. Are you shipping the trucks because I'm not paying a cost price increase? And you have the mother of all standoffs, which is the last thing you want at 7 o'clock on a Friday night, assuming the pubs are open.
All right, Andrew, thank you. So we're talking about cost price increase, or CPI. Q1's coming up. We've got to get those in early if we're going to give the buyer as much notice as possible, understand the type of buyer that you've got. The worst thing I ever had was a spreadsheet that was about 6,000 rows by 9,000 columns. I'm not a detailed thinker. And there I am thinking, there's no way I'm ever going to understand this thing. But that's what they wanted. Not clever. Until next week. Anything else on CPI?
No, I guess if you're planning to do it and you need to move quickly, it's the 19th of November. Give us a shout, drop us an email. We're here to help, as the saying goes.
Andrew, enjoy lockdown. I'll talk to you next week.
Bye-bye.